What was even the point of this year's WWE Draft? Plus, Drew McIntyre has officially re-signed with the WWE, the latest injury status on MJF, plus we got a whole lot more. This is the 8th incarnation of WrestleMan with the podcast. WrestleMan with the podcast starts now.
Welcome to WrestleMan with the podcast. I'm Dylan Shields. We talk Raw, SmackDown, wrestling news, and some fun top lists. With that being said, ring the bell.
Alrighty, it is a Tuesday night here, back to regularly scheduled programming in terms of timing. Like I mentioned, I apologize for last week and the delay of the episode, but I was very busy. And I'm pretty sure if any of you are college students, or even just in general, but specifically college students, this week might be a busy week for you because it might be either finals week or around finals week. I know for me, it sure as hell is finals week. Yesterday was pretty rough for me, but today's a pretty laid back, more chill day. So it's nice to get away from all the learning and talk some wrestling with you guys here. For those who are listening or those who don't notice, got my TV in the background right here. I don't know if I'm going to do this in all episodes, but why the hell not? I'm just brainstorming some cool ideas here, being like, oh, I can put on something in the background. That'd be pretty cool. I hope it's not too distracting, but I have Backlash from last year on, and that was a hell of a pay-per-view from the Bad Bunny Damian Priest match that honestly should have main evented because the crowd. Let's talk about that crowd for that show. That was absolutely freaking wild. And Cody Brock was good too. We had some pretty good matches, but the crowd was the highlight of that show. And we got Backlash this weekend in France. So we'll see if France if they can deliver as a crowd as well. We'll see. But let's get into the usual PowerPoint here. Oh, I just realized. There we go. There's the poster for WrestleMan here, my nice little Photoshop thing. So, for those who are living under a rock in terms of the wrestling world, obviously we had the WWE Draft these past few days here, and last Friday on SmackDown was the first day of it and the first rounds of it. And there was a lot of criticism on how kind of bland it felt, boring it was. They tried to spice it up with getting legends like the APA and I think like Tori Wilson and others to announce picks. But they've just been kind of doing the same format for the past, ever since 2019 or 2020 or something. They've just been doing this. Like, I just remember watching YouTube videos of like the old drafts, like back in like the early 2000s, like starting 2002. I love the 2004 draft with Paul Heyman and like Eric Bischoff like fighting over who gets what. Like, I wish we could go back to that, specifically because we have guys like Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis involved. And I get Triple H wants to make it a more professional type of landscape, but I wouldn't mind them bickering over picks. Like, that would be pretty cool to see rather than just bland, read off a card picks. Like, no one wants to see that. I feel like they're trying too much to copy the NFL and how they do things, but they just don't have the entertainment value in it. And if you don't see the list here, if you're just listening, or if you are seeing the list, most of these picks were so predictable. Like not a lot of guys, especially big time guys, moved anywhere. Like the only significant things that happened this whole draft is some NXT guys moved to Raw and SmackDown. Like that's it. There wasn't any big significant impact that much at all. And then there were some weird picks that were like some of the first picks. Like, as you see here, Bianca Belair as the first overall pick. Now, look, I love Bianca Belair, and she's a star. But are you telling me they're really going to pick her first overall over Orton, the Bloodline, even Styles? I get that the champions, and another issue I had, too, was the champions were kind of just staying with their brands, like the Undisputed title on SmackDown, the World on Raw. I felt like you should have had those eligible to be drafted too, because that's kind of fun to see if Cody would have stayed on Raw or not and where the Judgment Day is. But now that they weren't eligible, it's not as exciting. But yeah, it's weird that Bianca was the number one pick. It's weird that Orton wasn't picked till third. Nia Jax is going to SmackDown. She was picked before the freaking Bloodline and LA Knight. No disrespect to Nia, but it's just odd ordering. Like Jay, main event Jay Uso is cool, but like he's picked before Seth. Yeah, but when I look at these picks, they're just not big. I think Kiana James, the biggest one, coming from NXT, I believe. So yeah, day one neither day had much impact. But let's talk about the show itself. After Cody announced the first round picks, Carmelo Hayes came out to challenge Cody. And Carmelo seems to be the guy that we saw. If you didn't see a YouTube video, he trained CM Punk for his return at the Royal Rumble. He returned Cody for his back in 2023 when he came back from a torn pec. So he seems to be loved by the main event guys in that locker room. So good for him to get a spotlight like that confronting Cody. His heel work has been pretty cool. His rivalry with Trick Williams has been awesome. And he challenged Cody to a match, which is exciting. And we got that later. There was a tag team match, but the more important thing that came out of this was Santos came out and said, look, I have evidence that I didn't attack Dragon Lee, and it shows the footage. And I think most of us saw this coming, that Carlito was the one who ended up attacking Dragon Lee. It makes sense because Carlito kind of got left out of WrestleMania. Ray never picked him for any big time tag match. So you knew there was going to be some jealousy brewed within Carlito. And the return was no pun intended, cool, but ever since it's not so cool. He hasn't done much. He hasn't been booked that great. And the dude's ripped. Like, he's in the best shape he's ever been. The fact that they haven't used him that much was disappointing. But Carlito's obviously a better heel, so I'm excited to see like a Carlito Ray feud. I'm happy that the LWO, spoiler, they're in separate bands now, or brands, LWO and Legado del Fantasma. So I'm happy that feud's over because that's just been way too long of a feud. And we'll transition to like a Carlito versus Ray thing, which will be cool. Another thing that was pretty nice was Randy Orton and helping Kevin Owens to help beat up Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga. And now it's official for Backlash. It's going to be Orton and KO versus Solo and Tonga. See? I told you guys Orton and KO are a fun tag team. They're good as allies. They're entertaining, but this is more kind of a serious rivalry rather than the one with Logan Paul. But yeah, I mean, I dig this. Now, I think Solo and Tama should definitely win this because Solo hasn't won a match since freaking John Cena. And if you want to introduce Tama Tonga as like a huge threat, you want to establish this new supposed bloodline. Orton and KO are bulletproof to me where they don't need to lose. But yeah, you never know. But I'm intrigued for the match. And it's been a very good program. Like I've said before, you got to love how they keep the bloodline story fresh. Even when we think it's dead, it comes rising from the dead, and it's intriguing to watch. Sorry. We have another Backlash triple threat match official because Tiffany and Naomi fought for number one contender for Bayley's title, but Nia Jax, of all people, I guess because she was drafted to SmackDown, caused the disqualification. And we got a triple threat between Bayley, Tiffany, and Naomi, which is exciting. I'm happy that after Naomi, I was kind of getting concerned because she was losing a lot on SmackDown when she came back from the Royal Rumble. I'm happy they've actually been booking her better and she's in a big time match like this. So yeah, that should be pretty cool. Another match that's official, Bianca and Jade versus Damage Control for the women's tag titles at I'm seeing the background solo, like speaking of the bloodline right there. But yeah, we got tag title match. It's pretty obvious to me Bianca and Jade are probably gonna be champs. Damage Control's held them for a while, so it just makes sense to strap them on new champs and book them dominantly. What else? Oh yeah, Cody versus Carmelo Hayes in the main event. It was a good, solid match. Wasn't that long, which I wish they would have gotten some more time. But the big thing, also, too, I wanted to talk about, well, Cody and Styles had a contract signed. I forgot about that to start SmackDown. It was a good little promo. again, I mentioned this before, but I am getting so tired of people shitting on Cody already and his reign, saying it's stale, give it back to Roman, his promos aren't interesting. Like, fuckers, like, let the guy have a true rivalry and title defense before we just crap on this reign. Of course, it's going to be hard to live up to Roman's legendary reign. Can we, like, relax here about Cody? Like, saying he's stale already. I understand maybe he should cut more badass promos like the one he did on The Rock, like with the black suit. Everyone loved that, and everyone's like, he should do that more often. But I mean, he's just getting started as champ. He's still in awe of like his moment at WrestleMania. I mean, and Cody versus Styles, like I said, it's a perfect first feud for Cody. And I wouldn't mind if they had more than one match. So I just don't get the criticism with Cody. It's ridiculous. Let the dude hold it for a few months and then we can judge his reign for sure. Just ridiculous nitpicky fans. But speaking of Cody, him and Carmel in the main event, like I said, but the main thing I wanted to talk about was that scary spot. It seemed like what was going to happen was that Carmelo and Cody were both going for like cutters, but Cody was going to cut him off and hit his Cody cutter, and that would have been a sick spot. Did I think it was necessary to do on a TV taping? No, but like would have been cool. But they both missed. I think Cody kind of jumped to either Cody jumped too late or Carmelo too early, and Cody landed right on his shoulder. And I don't know if he was selling, but he was going to his shoulder and he was hurting. And Cody beat Carmelo. And that's what worried people, was that they immediately like went to the finish and Cody beat him. But it seemed like he held the title, and it doesn't seem like there's anything significant. Apparently, when he went backstage, when they asked him, "Are you okay?" and Cody's like, "Always." So even if it's just a minor injury, with all these injuries that WWE's having, the last guy they can afford is Cody right now. So praying that he's okay from that spot. Good match overall. Yeah, pretty entertaining match. And then Styles and Cody shook hands. Like I said, just building that hype to Backlash. All right. I'm going to change. I keep forgetting to show you guys. I think I showed you one episode that this microphone's got a cool color, and I got it on blue right now. Let's see. Let's change this baby to red. There we go. Mic wasn't working for a second, but let's get into Raw rundown here. And this one had a lot more draft picks, obviously, because it's 3 hours, and it had a lot more rounds. And again, the predictability, I just didn't like. Like, we knew. Also, the weird picks, they weren't as weird as Friday. Like, it makes sense maybe that Cargill and Imperium were picked first because Gunther and Jade are stars. But it's weird that guys like Punk and Drew were picked kind of late. I'm trying to think of other names. SmackDown, well, KO was picked in the second round. Raw overall's got a pretty much better roster to me than SmackDown, which makes sense because they're 3 hours. But without Roman, SmackDown, I'm not going to say he's kind of suffering, but there's not too many main eventers compared to Raw. But yeah, they're decent picks, but we all knew Punk was staying on. If the world title was going to stay on Raw, it's pretty obvious Punk and Drew are not going anywhere. That's my problem with the big titles not being eligible to be drafted. Like, we knew that they were going to stay then. LWO is kind of like a nice change on Raw because, like I said, to end the Legado feud, maybe they can have a Judgment Day feud. Judgment Day, I'm happy they're still on Raw. I didn't want to see them separated, especially with Rhea hurt. Like, the big things were like Dragunov got called up, Valkyria got called up, and those were cool moments. I saw the videos of some of those NXT, like her, and I think Blair Davenport had pretty emotional moments when they got drafted. Like, that's always cool to see. But again, just the predictability and just the way they presented it as kind of like a bland type of draft instead of like the cool ways they used to do it back in the 2010. Even 2010s had like cool stuff. Like, that's what we loved about the draft, was like, oh, someone's unexpectedly going to Raw or SmackDown. Back when like Triple H was drafted on SmackDown and he spit his water out and was pissed off and went to about Evolution. Or when John Cena was drafted by both Raw and SmackDown. Like, those moments are great, and we just don't have that anymore. And my thing is, I guarantee you, this is going to go to shit around Royal Rumble WrestleMania season. You can't tell me that, well, I forgot to mention that Roman Reigns withdrew from the draft, so I guess he's a free agent. And I think that's smart WWE to do. But Jay's on Raw. But are you telling me he's not going to eventually go to SmackDown when this bloodline feud escalates around SummerSlam, WrestleMania next year season? Like, bullshit. Like, we all know around WrestleMania season stuff's going to change. Every year it does. So I just think there's no point of a draft, in my opinion. I think you could have easily just done this on social media. You could have posted, hey, these guys are staying on Raw. These guys are staying on SmackDown. Some people are called up. And you would have not wasted our time. And plus, you got a pay-per-view coming up in Backlash. You don't want a draft like this to interfere with the storylines. So I just think it just didn't make sense and just disappointing overall. But yeah, obviously the big draft picks, Punk, Strowman, Drew, LWO, Dragunov, and SmackDown, Cargill, Owens, The Pride, Tiffany Stratton, Nakamura on SmackDown's kind of interesting. Pretty Deadly was drafted. There were some notable people that weren't drafted. New Catch Republic, I think, was the big one that wasn't drafted. So maybe they're going back to NXT or something. Who knows? But DIY on SmackDown's interesting too. But let's get into the show itself here. It kicked off with the new women's champion, Becky Lynch, and then Liv Morgan confronted her. And I said Liv Morgan redemption arc, but I think she mentioned how this is the Liv Morgan revenge tour. And I'm liking this slow, like I said, ascension to a heel by Liv Morgan. Like, I think this has a lot of potential here. I don't think they're going to have a match at Backlash. They might want Becky to be champion for a bit before Liv eventually wins it. And then Nia Jax came out and challenged one of them to a match, and Liv accepted. And Liv beat Nia. And Tiffany and Naomi were obviously involved in it, but Liv Morgan won. So I feel like the people that kind of freak out about Liv's booking, including me sometimes, can relax a little bit. I think Liv's fine. I think she's eventually going to win the women's title. Maybe at SummerSlam or at some point, and slowly turn heel, because we saw her and Dominic in the back. And there's a famous guy, I think I mentioned before, named Sam Roberts, who mentioned this. Imagine for a Rhea Ripley face turn if Dominic aligns with Liv, turns, who knows what the rest of the Judgment Day, but turns on Rhea. And like, imagine if Dom like low blows Becky or something and gives Liv the championship and turns on Rhea and now is aligned with her. Imagine the heat they would get and how much of a star Rhea would be. Because when she comes back, she's going to get cheered. Imagine how amazing a Liv Dominic alliance as champion versus Rhea at like SummerSlam would be. Oh, give me that, please. Anyway, Gunther defeated Xavier Woods in a pretty good match, beat him by submission. I think they were teasing Kofi throwing the towel, but he didn't. But Gunther won with the submission. Again, just establishing Gunther's dominance once again after losing. I think he should absolutely. I know Drew's a candidate to win King of the Ring, but I think Gunther should 100% win it. He's a perfect King of the Ring guy. And Raw was in Kansas City last night, and Patrick Mahomes was on it. But it was such a weird dynamic because he was hanging out with Logan Paul in the Judgment Day. And like when Logan announced the pick, he like told Mahomes to give him like a Super Bowl ring, and he tried to use it as a weapon. I'm like, why is Mahomes a hometown hero hanging out with heels? Like, it's a little weird. And then as Jay and Logan had a segment in the Judgment Day were attacking him, Braun Strowman returned. He is back for the first time in a long time. I think like almost a year, over a year. In fact, almost pretty much a year. And he brought back kind of like the slick hair look with the beard, like the classic look from Strowman in like 2017, 2018 look, which was really cool. But yeah, I mean, and then he got in Patrick Mahomes' face and was teasing, beating him up. And then Mahomes' offensive lineman was like defending him. It's like, again, why are the good guys teasing, attacking a hometown hero? Like, it's just weird. I know Mahomes is hated by most of the league now, NFL fans at this point, but Raw was in Kansas City, so it was a little bit weird. But it was cool to see Strowman return. He's drafted to Raw apparently, so I thought they were teasing the Strowman Logan Paul feud, but I think Logan's staying on SmackDown, so I guess we're not getting that. So I don't know what the heck Logan's first feud's gonna be. Maybe he just appeared for the sake of appearing on Raw. I don't know. Maybe Strowman and Logan Paul do have a feud because that would be a cool dynamic of one. Who knows? And Strowman and Jay like teaming up, but I never thought I'd see that. Sammy versus Bronson Reed was a good little match, but then just as Sammy was about to win, Gunther attacked him again and put him in the ankle lock. I don't know what he calls it, but yeah, the ankle lock. But then Bronson Reed took down Gable. So again, I don't think Backlash it's going to be this because it's too early, but I think we're probably getting a triple threat match. I'd like to see Sammy as champ for a good bit. Maybe Sammy can pin Bronson. Maybe we move away from the Gable feud for a bit and then bring it back around SummerSlam season where Gable could truly beat him. Because Gable should win the IC title at some point. And I want to see him and the Creed brothers in like a stable. But let's like slowly build to it rather than do it right away. Speaking of Gable, though, Awesome Truth versus Alpha Academy for the World Tag Team titles was a pretty decent match. Awesome Truth retained. I think we're kind of just teasing Gable, just disassociating himself with them. He already pretty much shit on them last week. And I think this is just further teasing that. It's a weird babyface versus babyface team dynamic, but it's such a feel-good moment for R-Truth and Awesome Truth in general, because they were entertaining back in 2011, and one of the most intriguing things about WWE to me, but they never held the tag titles from what I remember. They had tag matches. I remember the Cena Rock tag team when they beat them, but they never held the tag title. So that's a pretty good feel-good moment for Awesome Truth to be tag champions. My personal favorite part of the night, and I think the best feud we got going right now in all WWE is Punk and Drew. Because Drew came out right after he was picked and was pissed because Punk was picked before Drew. So I love, again, the teasing, the trolling of Drew. Drew's still wearing that sling or something in his arm because he's still injured. And apparently he's still... Sorry, I'm trying to like break news here. Apparently, he's kind of got removed from live shows and he's just doing TVs. Smart to do. You don't want to injure the guy, especially you want to make sure that he's healthy for Clash at the Castle because that's his pay-per-view. That's going to be all about him. Can't afford for him to be more badly injured. But speaking of that injury, he said that this was caused by CM Punk. And this is just like Rhea and Liv, where it's like both people injure each other. Like, I love how we have two feuds involving that. And then Punk's music hits, and he's like on top of some box stand or whatever, some weird place in the arena. And he's like, "I'm here, you little bitch." Drew goes to chase Punk, and then Punk just goes in the ring. Basically put like a little cat and mouse game, like a Tom and Jerry type thing with Punk and Drew. That was very funny. Like Drew, like you could tell from just his expressions and his hair, just how much of his hair is a mess and everything, just how much he can't stand Punk and how he's just losing it. It's amazing. So, and then I'm trying to remember what Punk said. He said basically, when I'm back, I'm going to make your life a living hell. And he's like, I love this line. It was like, losers pray for moments. Winners make them happen. Like, that was a badass line there by Punk. He was wearing like a sleeveless OG, not like the brand new shirt. He was wearing like the 2011 white shirt. Like, that's my favorite of his merch. So that's pretty cool to see, like a little nostalgia right there. So Punk doesn't have ever since WrestleMania, the sling's off or whatever they call it. I'm bad with medical terms, but yeah, I mean, it seems like Punk's definitely getting a lot healthier. I've said this for a while, but like, it's clear. Let's get to Drew whoever he beats wins the world title at Clash in the Castle, and then Drew versus Punk for the world title at SummerSlam. That's the goal. We have to get to that match because that's a match everyone wants to see. If I get to see that in person, boy, would I be privileged. That would be awesome. But yeah, please give me that. But just an amazing feud. I think this and like the Bloodline are the two best things WWE's got in terms of stories right now. The 6-man tag main event, Judgment Day versus R-Truth, Ricochet, and Andrade was a good little match. Can't go wrong with a Teddy Long 6-man tag team match player. And then Jay pinned Finn. Obviously, I'm building up Jay a little bit. I don't think he's going to be champ most likely, but I like how they're just building him up, and then him and Priest stood off. Like I said, good for both of them to have a big time title match, considering both of them were kind of in the mid card or tag team a year or two ago. Good for them to finally get the spotlight. It's kind of a fresh world title matchup, which is very exciting. So even though it was a decent SmackDown and Raw, but like I said, the draft to me was just pointless. It wasn't necessary to me. Ring discoveries. All right. Obviously, the elephant in the room, Drew McIntyre last week re-signs with the WWE. And this picture here, if you don't see it, apparently, like The Rock, definitely, obviously, because he's in the board, helped him out with re-signing. I think he gave him like a gift of like a sword and then like a nice letter. And like I think his team was there while Drew was out to eat. That was like such a heartwarming video for Drew. I think it was obvious he wasn't going anywhere. With it expiring after Clash at the Castle or before Clash at the Castle, you knew he wasn't going to miss that. And the way he's been booked, the way his character's been, I think, like I said, he's going to be a future world champion. There's no doubt. Like, why would Drew go to especially the way AEW is right now? Why would he go anywhere else? You stay with WWE. So good for Drew. Speaking of AEW, MJF, apparently he tried to rehab his shoulder as much as he could, but he couldn't. Apparently he wanted to return in March, but he couldn't. So he had to get shoulder surgery. So this delays his return. I feel so bad for him and Adam Cole because they had like the feud of the or like friendship or like story of the year last year. And it was good. And this injury has just completely derailed both of them. Because I think the Cole heel turn could have been so much better if they did it sooner and Cole wasn't injured. And then MJF injured right now. It's like, are they really going to go back to this feud when MJF comes back? It's almost like you should just not do it or just worry about MJF Adam Cole. Because this undisputed kingdom thing is just not working. It's just not that over besides Adam Cole. They're already teasing breaking up Wardlow and kicking him out. So, yeah, it just sucks for MJF. He should get as much rest as he can because he deserves it because he worked his ass off last year. But just devastating to that story. And another really serious story that no jokes here. Darby Allin was hit by a bus in New York City, I believe, last week. He already suffered from a broken foot in AEW, I think, with a match with Jay White, and he got a broken nose from this. Apparently, the car was going like 5 miles an hour, not even that fast. And I think Allin was like, I think Darby kind of saved someone or helped someone from getting hit because I think it was late at night when it happened or something. But like he had like a picture, not a disturbing one, but one that's just so unfortunate for him. And I'm just praying for him. I'm so happy that like he's okay. And I'm just hoping that he recovers and takes his time. I know he said he mentioned in the interview he wants to come back like next month or something. It's like, dude, take your freaking time, buddy. Like take your time coming back. Don't rush. Because those incidents just suck to happen. Like I said, just praying for Darby and his recovery. The final thing is Tony Khan's controversial comments on the WWE, and he responded to those comments. And I'm going to get my phone out because I have the article of him responding to it. Because apparently, I think he was on a podcast. I think it was by Mojo Rawley. He has like sort of like a I think TMZ Sports, because Mojo Rawley's part of that, and he interviewed Tony Khan. Let me see. Oh yeah, he compared the WWE to Harvey Weinstein. Yeah, it was such an odd quote when he said it, and he was complimenting AEW. Like, I think we got tons of coverage for AEW. I think it's important to say AEW is the best wrestling company in the world in many ways. It's not shocked that he says that. It's his company. I'm trying to see the quote that he truly said about WWE just in general. Where is this at? I think he basically said like WWE is like the evil company and we're up against it pretty much every week. And look, shitting on Tony Khan seems to be the thing to do right now. A lot of people are doing it, Punk called him a clown. A lot of people are calling him a joke of a boss. And me, Matt, and Troy criticized his way of being a boss. And now he seems to be in a storyline. He was on NFL Network during the draft and after the draft with that neck brace, although he was selling it bad because a guy with the neck brace does not move around their head like this. Their head is stiff, and Tony Khan's still like moving. Like, he needs to learn to sell a little bit more. And I'm a guy who doesn't even wrestle and knows that. But I don't want to shit on him too much. Like, I'm fine with him saying I know people are going to call him delusional, like, oh, AEW is not the best wrestling promotion. He could say that. He's the owner. But when look, Vince was a horrible owner. And if Tony Khan's just like, maybe you can understand, maybe he's joking around. Like, he's just saying that Vince McMahon's like that because, like Harvey, Vince did a lot of shitty things to people and just disturbing things. And a lot of wrestlers back in the day, WWE, maybe even still, have done crappy things like Harvey did. So I don't know if he was trying to make light of something or just joke around. Like, got to take that into context. But, like, why is he all of a sudden trying to be like Punk, like trying to sound like a badass and say these like, oh, edge cutting things like, oh, WWE's the evil company? It's like, worry about your own damn company. Stop and this has been an issue with them for years. Stop worrying about the competition. Worry about your own damn company. Promote your company. Promote Swerve Strickland as the new champion, or Will Ospreay, or Mercedes Moné. Stop freaking talking about how evil WWE is. Like, it's ridiculous. It's borderline pathetic that he would do this. Like, I just don't understand. And WWE needs to do that too. And they do a better job of it, but still, they should not be focusing on AEW. I'm not just pro WWE. They should be focusing on their company too, and not worrying about AEW. But Tony just making those comments is just dumb. Just makes absolutely no sense. He does not need to be saying that crap. So just not a good look for him. I like him as a person, so I don't want him to fail, and I don't want to shit on him like others are, but it's just a bad look to be saying that crap. But let's get into our takedown top 5. It is back, baby, and I am so excited that it's freaking back. And it is heel turns that I've ever seen in wrestling. Like I said, I've watched wrestling since 2015, so take that with a grain of salt. So it's going to be everything from 2015 on. I got an honorable mention, AJ Styles, when he turned on Cena in 2016, even though everyone saw that coming because he's reforming the club. Too sweet. It led to Styles and Cena's matches at Money in the Bank, SummerSlam, and the Royal Rumble 2017. And specifically the SummerSlam Royal Rumble matches and the feud itself was some of the best stuff I've ever seen. I think like Styles cuts his best promos when he's a heel like this. I think this was no doubt Styles' best year in WWE, beating Cena clean. And then obviously the classic, like I said, at Royal Rumble. So that was just an amazing turn. But the top 5, number 5, I got Daniel Bryan low blowing AJ Styles on SmackDown 2018 to win the WWE Championship. This came out of nowhere. well, they were kind of teasing it a little bit, but I did not see Bryan winning the championship that night and turning heel in the process. And right afterwards, he had a match with Brock Lesnar, and he had an excellent match there as a heel. And it led to the amazing character that Bryan had, where he was like the planet's champion. He had like a wooden belt, calling people fickle, like eating and drinking disgusting stuff, like incredible stuff. And it led to obviously Kofi Mania. So just an amazing out of nowhere heel turn. And it led to a big title moment. This one did not really lead to anything good, but I put this in the top 5 because the moment itself was great. Ambrose turning on Seth Rollins in 2018. This was the night that Roman announced his leukemia, and they beat, I forgot who they beat, but they beat someone for the tag titles. And no one saw this coming. He immediately hit him with the DDT or Dirty Deeds to Seth, and the crowd was stunned. I was stunned. Michael Cole sold it really well that night. Like I said, the moment itself was better because like the feud was awful. It's the reason why Ambrose left WWE with his bad heel character. But the moment itself that night was incredible because no one saw it coming. And it was payback for what Seth did to them. So just an amazing, amazing heel turn there by Ambrose. Sucks it. It didn't lead to much, but yeah. Number 3, I got Dominic Mysterio, Dirty Dom, turning on Edge and then his father. This one we kind of all saw coming at some point, but this leads to the Dominic character we have now, and he's one of the best, if not the best heel we have right now. So low blow and Edge was one thing, but the cherry on top was him just clotheslining Ray, his father Ray, and it led to the amazing feud and match they had at WrestleMania, which was awesome. And yeah, the crowd just sold it so well. It was so good. And like I said, this one, like leading to Dominic joining the Judgment Day, something the Judgment Day desperately needed because back then they were kind of stale. So they needed Dominic and Rhea joining kind of saved it, because when it was just Ed or Bauer and Priest, it wasn't great. With Dominic and Rhea in the fold, it was awesome. And obviously now he's, like I mentioned, biggest heel, probably the biggest heel we have right now in terms of reactions. Number 2, I got the final boss himself, The Rock, slapping Cody Rhodes in the face. This one we did not see coming at all. We thought it was going to be Rock Roman at WrestleMania 40, and whether we liked it or not, we were going to get it. But guess what? The Rock listened to the fans. He said the long game before this, and he cut kind of like a heelish promo beforehand, which I loved. He like showed a presentation of the Bloodline family tree, and then Cody interrupted, and there was a cool shot of like after Cody insulted or not insulted, like said like his dead uncles would be ashamed of Roman. They had a cool shot of The Rock slowly walking up to Cody, and you knew shit was going down, and it did. And The Rock just boom, slapping Cody. And like I said, pretty much all besides the Ambrose heel turn, everything led to something great. This led to potentially The Rock's best character we've ever seen. Best part is he's not even done yet. We're still due for a Rock Cody match, one-on-one match. And the build up to Mania, even if he overshadowed Roman a little bit, it was still freaking awesome heel turn. But my favorite heel turn I have ever seen is when Roman Reigns came back to WWE in the pandemic 2020. One of the only good things to come out of that freaking pandemic was that, honestly. But it was such an iconic return. Rest in peace to the Fiend Bray Wyatt, because that's who he attacked, him and Strowman. And considering it was in the pandemic and no one was there were no rumors or anything that Roman was coming back. So this was a shocking SummerSlam moment. And it was amazing. And it wasn't just him returning out of nowhere. It was his new attitude. And this was probably still one of my favorite parts of his reign overall, was just his demeanor and character and his unpredictability, being like, oh, what's this Roman? Like, this isn't the big dog Roman. This is something new. The Wreck Everyone and Leave shirt's an iconic shirt. Just the way he was beating up people, his white teeth, his really white teeth when he came back. Him shit, like I said, best shit talker in the business. Like when it comes to a match or something, like Roman was talking shit. And that's when you knew, like, this wasn't the same Roman. This was a different Roman. If you see the picture, he's absolutely jacked, which is incredible. And like I said, the way he slowly like became the tribal chief with Paul Heyman, but eventually joining him, Roman winning the title, forming the bloodline. Now he's the iconic guy he is today. And it all started on this date. That's why it's my favorite heel turn, because it led to one of the biggest characters WWE's ever had, whether you want to admit it or not. As much grief as a lot of fans give Roman for his reign, he's an iconic character, and this was an iconic moment. So this is why this was my favorite heel turn of all time. We got some videos coming out this week and next week. I'm going to give my predictions for Backlash in France. It should be a quick, not too long video, just me giving my picks. And then next episode, next Tuesday for this podcast, will be dedicated to reviewing Backlash, because obviously that is this Saturday. So that should be very exciting. But that's going to do it here for this 8th rendition of WrestleMan with a podcast here. And even though this was because of a class I had in podcasting while I did this podcast, I definitely want to continue on throughout the summer. I'm very excited here. For those who are in college or just going through stressful time, like, just take a deep breath, relax. Like, you'll get, especially for college students, go through finals, you'll get through it. And I hope you guys have a safe and fun week here. And I'll see you next week.